Hello, Good Stuff family. Rounding out this day of gratitude for our veterans, and so honored to have Ryan Weaver here with us. I know you've been busy all day doing interviews. What a complete honor that you gave us some time here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I'm actually looking at my laptop right now so I can share it over to my artist page and make sure that we've got my fans on board to be able to check us out. So let me try. I'm trying to do that as we're talking. I didn't expect.
Sure.
I was still seeing 10 on here, but I wasn't paying attention to my phone.
Ryan, this is perfect because I want to do an introduction about you anyway, and I was going to do it without you on camera, but let's do it now. So here's the deal. You guys, this is a man who, according to Tim Hickey, our common friend, I think his quote was, "He's what every American should be." This is what he's quoted. Yeah. He said, and he's just a cool dude is what he said. So not only is he a performing artist in Nashville, but he's a veteran, an Army veteran, Blackhawk Aviator, two-time Gold Star family. And just today, he dropped Let's Talk About Heroes. This video, you better get a tissue. I'm going to try and show it to you here. We worked a little bit today to get it up. But for you, this is like, it's personal. It's personal for you. Give me a window, would you, into I mean, your family, your brother-in-law, your brother, again, these families of these veterans, these Gold Star families who continue to pay the price. Will you give us a little background before we back into this song that you released today? Give me the background, if you would.
So I followed in my two brothers' footsteps, Aaron and Steve, into the military. Steve, my oldest brother, he went into the Ranger Regiment, then got out and went into flight school as a Cobra pilot. I think he started as a Cobra pilot. And Aaron followed in his footsteps. He was in the Ranger Regiment, 375th. That was in the ambush in Mogadishu that Blackhawk Down was made after. He's the only non-commissioned officer that didn't get shot in the whole thing. And I followed in their footsteps. I went military intelligence. I wasn't quite as hardcore as they were. And Aaron got out of after Somalia and went back in as an aviator as well, a warrant officer. And I was at a recruiting duty station. Aaron called me on a Sunday night, and I'd already worked 7 days, and said they had changed the vision standards for flight school. You got to think about putting your packet in, because I didn't think I had 20/20 vision. Turns out I did when I did my flight physical. But outside of that, so I put my packet in, was selected at the next board, and Aaron was already in flight school. He had already finished with Warrant Officer Candidate School, and I started Warrant Officer Candidate School, and we were at flight school together. He was stationed at 82nd Airborne, and I was restationed to 1st Armored Division in Germany. And I was deployed to Iraq in 2003, and he was deployed shortly thereafter. We were both deployed in 2003. He got there a little bit later than I did. And he was a cancer survivor. In between when he graduated flight school and went to his first unit, he found out he had a rare form of testicular cancer. And if it would have gotten outside of where they did the surgery to remove it, it would have killed him. It was extremely invasive. So they did an exploratory surgery on him and cut him from his sternum down. And he had two choices. He could either get chemotherapy and radiation that would take him out of flying for multiple years, or he could get the exploratory surgery. And as quickly as he would recover from that surgery, he could get back up to flying. He had to pass an Army PT test and get what's called an upslip, an authorization to fly from a flight surgeon. And once he got those and recovered from that, he would be able to fly again. So it wouldn't take him out for years, just the time it took him to recover. Unfortunately, during that surgery, they accidentally sewed the small intestines to the wall of his stomach, and he ended up being in the hospital, going back in the hospital, and he went down to almost 90 pounds, from 165 pounds down to 90 pounds, and was almost comatose. They opened him back up, removed the suture. He was out of the hospital a couple days after that. And then, like the American superhero that he was, fourth in the best Ranger competition for folks out there who know anything about the best Ranger competition, one of the most grueling military challenges that there are across the world, much less in the United States. But he got fourth in that 2 years in a row, being the American superhero that he was. He passed his Army physical fitness test just a few months after that and had his upslip and was ready to rock and roll, but he was non-deployable. So he got a waiver to be deployed. and to get to combat because his little brother was over there, and obviously he didn't want to be left behind with his brothers and sisters in arms going to combat. But he had to get bi-monthly blood screenings for that cancer to make sure it didn't come back as part of the waiver. He was a passenger in a medevac helicopter on the way to one of those bi-monthly blood screenings when it was shot down and killing everyone on board, and we became our first-time Gold Star family. On December 17th in 2013, you wouldn't think lightning would strike a family twice, but my brother-in-law, Randy Billings, was piloting a Blackhawk in Afghanistan when an IED blew the tail boom off the aircraft. A passenger in the back was ejected at the top of the mountain, but the rest of the crew rolled down 500 feet of mountainside, and of course, none of them survived. So we became a second-time Gold Star family. It was it sucked going through it the first time, but the second time was even worse. I wouldn't say even worse. It was just as difficult for our family to go through it a second time. The rarity of that happening to a family in the first place, with less than 1% of the entire United States ever serving in the military, right. To have it happen to us twice is extremely rare. But I decided after when Aaron was killed in action that I would start chasing this dream in country music. I found out in flight school that I was actually decent at singing and performing. And when Aaron died, it was something that I really found a passion in. It was the first time in my life that I really didn't have footsteps to follow in. It was time to make my own path. So I started chasing this dream in country music. And that's what's led me to today. We've had some amazing, incredible things that have happened. And when Randy died, it just motivated me even more to want to be successful. And we've gone from boots in the sand in Iraq in 2003 to the center circle of the Grand Ole Opry stage in 2015, with Charlie Daniels introducing me on September 11th, to Madison Square Garden in 2018 as the headliner for 24 plus arena shows across the nation, honoring our fallen law enforcement, first responders, and military.
No wonder Randy was your hero. And all I keep thinking is, when we talk about Veterans Day, one day to be grateful, you know what, my friend, my new friend, grateful for you 24/7, 365. And those families, that's what we're going to talk about. I have two more guests here from locally from here in Cleveland too. That's the thing. It's not just the veteran, it's the family. And when they come back, the next two guests will talk about that, but I'm going to go ahead and try and show your video right now that you dropped today. Now that we all have the background, you understand why when Tim Hickey sent it to me, he said, you better have a tissue ready.
So before we play it, if I could give a little background on the cast in the video, because we wanted to do something extremely unique with this video, and combining and showing the relationship between our law enforcement, first responders, and military communities, and the relationship and the bond that we have between all of us in service. Because just like in the military, there are very few people that have ever served in law enforcement or as firefighters or EMTs or on the front lines as medical workers. But the cast that we have involved in this, when you see Don Jenkins is a Medal of Honor recipient, legitimate Medal of Honor recipient. He was half of Forrest Gump's character in Vietnam. A lot of folks remember when Forrest Gump was running in and out of the forest and going back and getting his buddies right before they dropped the bombs on there, and he was shot and all those things. Don Jenkins, who stars in this, was the person that actually did that. Forrest Gump's character was written, based off of Don Jenkins' story. We have Rudy Pearson, who is a tunnel rat in Vietnam. He has 4 confirmed kills, including a commander in Vietnam in the tunnels. And if anybody doesn't know what the tunnel rats are, they went in with a flashlight, a knife, and a 45 into these tunnels, and they were all small. Every one of them had to be small, small and ferocious and fierce. But you meet Rudy Pearson, and he's just the kindest, just ray of sunshine. And when you meet him, he loves being everywhere. He's super grateful to be alive. But we got Jessica Lynch, who was the first female POW in the history of American combat. She's in there as well. And our lead character, Diana Muller, she's a former law enforcement officer, professional 3-gun shooter, a Second Amendment advocate for the DC Project for women's gun rights. She believes in education, not legislation, for gun rights. But even more so, she's a great friend of mine. I absolutely adore her. She's as good as it gets. And last but certainly not least, I have to talk about Heath Smith and his son, Buster, who are in this. Heath Smith is he's the head of respiratory therapy in his hospital. He's been in the thick of everything that's happened through COVID. He's seen more than he needs to see, to including his father-in-law passing away from COVID-related pneumonia. So you know, he's been through a whole lot of things, and he's a hero in his right as well as the executive producer. And Chris Martini, the director of this, he's, I mean, super immensely supportive in the movie community. You would think, you know, there's so much that we talk about in the movie communities out there that are not super pro what we're super pro about. But no politics involved in this whatsoever. Chris Martini is just an amazing human being that supports our heroes, and I was honored to partner up with him on this to create, I believe, a video unlike anything anybody's ever seen.
Let's talk about heroes. Let's do it. Not just on Veterans Day. Okay, I'm going to roll this now. We'll be right back with you.
Hey, y'all, dinner's ready in 20.
Daddy, why was Grandpa a hero?
He risked his life so we could be free.
What happened to Grandpa in the war?
Sitting on the dock, sun setting on the water, Dad told a story about Grandpa flying through the skies like a rocket, both engines flaming out. Escaped from the bottom of a freedom bird falling, the only one to make it home. Till a brother with a bugle played a sad song for him, standing in the rain alone. Let's talk about heroes, about the ones not afraid to fight. Talk about freedom, 'cause someone gave their life. Talk about always standing when others can't, and those who hold the line. Talk about heroes and their loved ones left behind. A young girl walked over and handed me a badge. I knelt down to ask her why. Said my father was an officer caught in the crossfire, saving another life. I still remember a dark day in December when we cried to his last call. And Amazing Grace when the bagpipes played for my daddy who gave it all. Let's talk about heroes, about the ones not afraid to fight. Talk about freedom, 'cause someone gave their life. Talk about always standing when others can't, and those who hold the line. Talk about heroes and the loved ones left behind. They gave their lives for you and I. They paid the price, yeah, they sacrificed. Let's talk about heroes, about the ones not afraid to fight. Talk about freedom, 'cause someone gave their life. Let's talk about heroes, about the ones not afraid to fight. Talk about freedom, 'cause someone gave their life. Talk about always standing when others can't, and those who hold the line. Talk about heroes and their loved ones left behind.
How are you, buddy?
I saw Grandpa.
You saw Grandpa? I saw Grandpa too. And he said everything's gonna be okay.
For me, that's like church. It was like spiritual, right? I felt it to my core. And when you know your story behind it, please, anyone within earshot of listening to this, I'm proposing that Veterans Day does not end at midnight tonight. Please, if you need any reinforcement, and then I also know that you have done so many songs in the past for our first responders, our other heroes who go to work without the promise of coming home. And again, to my last breath, I defend them as well. So I'm so glad to have you. Now I'm going to bring in two of my favorite people here in Cleveland who are just classic, the good stuff. We say quintessential, the good stuff, and introduce you. We say God weaves. Now watch him work. I suspect there'll be some great weaving taking place here. And it's not lost on me that we're talking with Ryan Weaver. I mean, what?
It's interesting.
What?
My brother's and my nickname were in high school were Big Weave and Little Weave.
I love it. This is
Yep.
awesome. I sometimes, honestly, we call them God winks. So, all right. In the interest of weaving, here we go. I'm going to bring in my friend Denise Gula-Weller. I'm going to add her here. There she is. And oh my gosh, Tim DeWolf, this is a Marine veteran right here. Hi, buddy.
Happy day for your birthday.
Yesterday.
You know, I survived another one.
Yeah. So let me just do a quick introduction, and I want to be respectful of the time too for all of you and people who are watching. But Denise is the creator, choreographer, and director of Blood Stripe, is what she called it, A Spouse's Story. At first, it was a multimedia stage production, and now it is a film of hope that has won film festival awards, and it's really just starting to gain traction. Her daughter, Megan Kane, son-in-law, Marine veteran Jeremy Kane, has traumatic brain injury, PTSD. Jeremy, part of the 325 Marine Battalion right here in Brook Park. It was in 2005. That 49 of his brothers did not come home. Jeremy did, but a totally different man. And I covered that as a news reporter. And I just remember this is a tragic headline and it's going to go away in a matter of days, weeks, I don't know. But I knew the story that I want to tell instead of swooping in on these headlines and then heading back out. Like I want to continue to tell the stories of these families continue to pay the price. And so here we sit in 2021 with a family, which is a case in point, that tragic headline playing out every single day of her daughter, Megan, and Jeremy's life. So if you could, Denise, walk us through when it was 10 years that he suffered with PTSD. Walk us through your frustration of what you saw, what's not available, and your firsthand account of this.
Well, just to be clear, he still suffers from those issues.
Right. It's a lifetime thing.
It was 10 years following his deployment before my daughter was able to understand what was going on. And a lot of that first recognition has to do with Tim, because he was the one who went to their home one day. And so that set her on a path of investigation, and it enabled her to learn to understand what was going on. But the issue for so many of these families, and it startles me even today as I get emails from our organization's caregivers who say the same thing over and over again, that they just didn't understand what it meant for their spouse to have PTSD. They didn't understand how that would impact them. And they are still learning that it's not their fault. That's, I think, one of the biggest issues behind it is the spouse assumes that what is going on in the marriage is their fault and that they don't know how to fix it and they don't know how it got there. And the risk of divorce is so high in these relationships. And the risk of suicide is high, not just for the veteran himself, but also the spouses.
Right. And so what Tim does, you saw as well that, okay, so we have programs set up, but both of you realized we got to get to them. Tim, you would literally walk into emergency rooms, walk into people's homes, these veterans, where they were at their end of their rope. Give us a window why you were so passionate. You're a veteran. You could be kicking back but you make it this your life's work. Give me a window into why you do it and what you saw in Jeremy's story.
Well, first off, and Randy may come to believe this too, is a lot of us feel we're on the same road. It's just the mile markers that are a little bit different. My time was in Vietnam. I was a forward air controller. I ran the medevacs for my infantry battalion in the Marines. I ran the resupplies and the air strikes. And so I came back. It took me a long time to realize I had the same problem. And I had what they called blast syndrome in my day, which they call TBI now. Part of my recovery was helping others get through theirs. I was fortunate enough to get a service dog, a great big Landseer Newfoundland trophy. And we started, when a good friend of my daughter's committed suicide, we started a charity called Ghost Rider, because that was his nickname. And it wasn't enough that all these programs were out there, suicide hotline, so on. We knew we needed something to actually put an arm, a hand on somebody's shoulder. Hope's not a plan. You can wish for good outcomes. So we started going out and we started doing all sorts of things, seminars, so on. We found the best results came when I actually went out as a veteran and somebody that had been through some of the same things, just showed up and talked to them and listened to them. And the dog was a big help. And when you have a 180-pound dog put its head in your lap, it can be very soothing. And many times, as was in Jeremy's case, the veteran wasn't expecting us. In some cases, our reputation got to be respected enough that judges would ask us into their courtrooms. And I was not an official employee of the VA. I have no official standing with anybody. But I was able to have veterans that were in jail released to my custody and walked over to their psych appointment until the VA found out I was doing it. I was able to have judges take me back into their chambers and talk about what VA programs. I was able to stay in hospital rooms overnight with my dog, or sit in hospital emergency rooms or psych rooms with my dog and talk to veterans and guide them into treatment. And we really found that what somebody needed might be TV. It might be meals. It might just be somebody to talk to. It could be rent. It could be one of many things that would just lessen the level of stress in some aspect of their life. But they needed to have somebody that they could trust and that they could talk to, and they felt had some vested interest. People trust and like people they see who are like themselves. So you learn to be like those people. And that's kind of how we found our niche. And Jeremy was a classic case. The first time I met Jeremy, he left the house, he left me alone with his wife. So, I mean, it doesn't always start off great.
No, but you literally saved lives. And so I'm going back to you if I can quickly. Denise, so you saw as a mother of or a son-in-law and a daughter who were going through this alone. So with your choreography skills and your history in the theater, she ends up making a play about this with ballet, with dancing in it. Tim DeWolf, Marine veteran, tough guy, said he was wrecked when he saw it. He just kept wanting to say, I'm sorry. So quickly, if we can, I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. Tell me, Denise, again, Blood Stripe, A Spouse's Story. Give me the 2-minute or minute and a half, if you can, take on what it is and where it's heading and what you hope to accomplish.
I hope that it provides some validation for the spouses, some understanding for the community, and some hope that while you'll never be able to make this completely go away, with education and understanding and working together, the spouse and their husband or wife have an opportunity to find that new normal that everybody talks about these days and find a way to manage it. The biggest issue is for the spouse to understand that this is not their fault, and to learn how to control this constant level of crisis and chaos and stress that they're under, because it ends up having long-term negative health impacts for the spouse as well. So, our goal is to just shed a light on it and show that there is a way forward. If not an end, there's at least a way forward. I like to say that, it's a journey, not a destination.
And we're all on different mile markers, like you said. So Ryan, when you hear this, I'm sure the reach that you have, we say, see the good, and say, see the good, and then be the good. So you see the good in these veterans, and then you are the good for them. Give us a window into, I'm sure that you have firsthand accounts coming in all the time of sure, they made it home, but like the ghostwriters would say, bring them all the way home. You see that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I became the vice president of Warrior Shield Foundation, which is an organization essentially is the Angie's List of nonprofit organizations. We're compiling with different organizations like what Tim has and what he does, and the different things that we can do to accomplish it. Great things for our heroes out there, because the resources simply aren't there. The government is not necessarily taking care of our heroes the way that they should be taken care of. And Tim, I have to tell you that your generation, we're held up on the shoulders of your generation. My generation is, and the utmost respect to you coming back to what you came back to. A lot of our heroes came back to Heroes Welcomes, which was a complete contradiction to Tim's generation. But they've also had multiple back-to-back deployments. I've got folks 18, 19 years military service active duty who are being told they're going to be dishonorably discharged for the things that are going on right now in the military with multiple combat deployments, and they don't know what to do. And I believe that having the resources available through different outlets that are not necessarily the norm, and showing them that there are folks out there that are here to support, are extremely important. And one of the reasons why we did Let's Talk About Heroes, and now in today's day and age where we're seeing our heroes vilified around the country, which is heartbreaking to me as a 21-year combat veteran myself and a two-time Gold Star family member. We wanted to make sure that we showed those heroes how much we love them, how much we support them, and how much we stand next to them when others won't.
So with all the things that you're doing, Ryan, the virtual veterans wall, Denise, that you're working on, Adopt a Spouse, the funding for all of when these movies, when your movie starts to play, we're going to hopefully, God weaves and watch them work, that we can just hopefully uplift and elevate the three of you who are consummate heroes, the real heroes. And I thank you. And again, Denise, you're not a veteran, but you're the family. You're the perfect example of what all encompassing why we celebrate veterans on a day like today and why we celebrate their family. So I try to keep these to a half hour. I feel like we could go on and on. I was going to try to surprise you with Herschel Woody Williams. I was hoping he would. Isn't he great? Yeah, he's the only, only living gold medal.
It's hard to find a Marine that hasn't met Woody.
Medal of Honor. He's the only living Medal of Honor Marine from Iwo Jima, right? Is that right? I think that's right.
Yeah.
Have you met him by any chance, Ryan?
Oh yeah. It's hard to meet a Marine that hasn't met Woody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you, Ryan? Have you had the pleasure of meeting him? He goes around and builds all fundraisers for all of these walls that, Andy Nowacki's and the
unselfish with his time, you can imagine.
Yeah. So like you said, these great generations, we are nothing but grateful for you all. And I just thank you.
I'd like to build on something that Ryan said, though, and it's
okay.
Said without prejudice. And that's when we talk about post-traumatic stress and about coming back from the war and about recovery. And that is, when I talk to people about veterans that have been through treatment, I talk about living with PTSD, because we see currently a desire to take away some rights from veterans who've been diagnosed with PTSD but have gone through recovery. And it comes Second Amendment rights, all sorts of rights. I testified in a child custody case where, because a veteran had a history of post-traumatic stress, and in that early history he had some violent acts, that they wanted to deny him custody. So I prefer, after they've been through treatment and are in recovery, that we're living with PTSD. We're not suffering from PTSD.
Thank you.
So-
And a lot of times it just comes in the verbiage, right?
Well,
Living with.
Yeah, it's a subtle change, but in a court of law, it's not so very subtle.
And I'll just wrap this up by saying it's not lost on me that you guys are walking the walk. You're not just talking the talk. And the whole reason we even met Ryan, again, 1,000 thank yous. You've been doing interviews all day long. Is our friend Tim Hickey, who is very involved here with the Sub-Zero mission. We got to give a shout out. Like these, here's what he told me. He said, so are all these programs, and Denise, you can relate to this, but they say, come on, the programs say, come on out of the trenches. We reach in and go into the trenches because a lot of these people who are freezing to death, these homeless people, are veterans. Unacceptable. So that's exactly what y'all are doing, going into the trenches. I applaud you. I celebrate you. And I am grateful for you to my very last breath. And we'll post all the links, and hopefully we'll watch how this weaving continues to uplift, encourage, and inspire these hero families. I'm so grateful for you.
And Ryan, I'm a retired police officer. I became a respiratory therapist. So
Wow.
And everything you were talking about, I thought, boy, this guy could write my life history.
Well, we covered every part of your life in that one video. That's great.
And I still don't know what I want to be. So
Oh, well, you're a gift.
Thank you for being
That's
the
great.
kind of person you are. Denise, it's always good to see you again.
Good to see you, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks again for your time, and God bless.
You guys be safe.
You too. Good night, everybody.